everyone and welcome to Whiskey Wednesday. Today we're talking about a whiskey that most people will know, or the standard version you will know, but we are privileged enough to have a bottle of the Distillers Edition. This is Oban Distillers Edition. Like the regular whiskey, it is still a 14-year-old product, but this one has been finished for a length of time in Montia Fino sherry casks. And for those of you that know sherry, Fino is the driest type of sherry, normally adds very kind of nutty, acidic fruit flavors to things, and with this it really has amped up a lot of the fruit flavor you get from standard Oban. I've not had regular Oban for a long time, but the last time I drank it I was in a bar with a friend and it just reminded me of like milk chocolate. It's slightly smoky, it's this kind of good all-rounder kind of whiskey. This, however, I think is a slightly older batch, so I've not seen the newer ones, but this is from 2017, 2003 distilled, 2017 bottled, so 14 years old. It comes in at 43% ABV. It isn't natural colour, so there is some additional colour added to that whiskey. Like any big brand too, it's also filtered or chill filtered, so there's no kind of organic processes with this. They're a pretty small distillery in Oban. I think they churn out like less than 1 million litres a year, but it's one of the most known whiskies on the planet because it's part of the classic malt selection, that kind of island style. Fits in very well with like Taliskers without being too smoky, but it's a West Coast whiskey, but it's not overly peated, which is quite nice. But Fino brings out those big fruity nutty flavors. It's very acidic, it's very dry. So we're going to smell this. We'll show you guys a couple of shots of the box too, because there's some cool key features on the box which explain the Distillers Edition range, whether you've had Lagavulin or Dalwhinnie or Clynelish, Caol Ila. In fact, I'll show you those now because they're kind of worth seeing. You'll always see this little key, this little kind of gold reference on the bottle or the box or the tube. That tells you the symbol of the distillery, the date it was established, the type of cask finish it has, and the initials of the master distiller. And if I flip this round, you can kind of see that all explained on the bottom. So it gives you the distillery symbol, which is like this little lion kind of thing. It's very similar to Lagavulin. The cask type, which is MF, so that Montia Fino style, and then the other two factors as well. So if you flip over a bottle of Lagavulin, Distillers Edition, Dalwhinnie, Caol Ila, whichever one you have, Clynelish isn't easy to get these days, this little key will be on the back, so you'll be able to see all the features of it, which is quite cool. A lot of brands don't explain a lot of cask finishing and master distillers initials, so that's quite nice. So if you do see a Distillers Edition, do keep an eye out for that. Another fun fact about Oban, it's one of the only distilleries which was established prior to 1800. There aren't a lot of them anymore. Oban, Highland Park, Blair Athol, Little Mill if you want to go back that far, and Glenturret, which is still producing, but there's only around sort of 12 or 13 of them. But we'll smell, we'll taste, and we'll talk you through Oban Distillers Edition. And straight away, it is like the fruitiest whiskey you'll ever come across. Loads of sour apple, loads of mangoes, loads of pineapple. Verging into like quite sour but still kind of sweet fruits. If you've ever eaten like sour apple sweets or anything like that, it has that in bucket loads. Grapefruit, I think, is probably the best way to describe it. Sweet and sour all together. And then there's a slight saltiness. It's slight coastal influence. It is peated, but not like to a degree where it's noticeable. But there is like a very slight saline, salty bacon flavor coming through with it. But wonderfully tropical. Not what you expect from a West Coast whiskey. You expect it to be more intense, more robust, not this elegant, not this delicate. But at 43%, it's nice to see that those big fruity flavors are coming out a little bit more. But let's taste it, because that's where the money is. There it's more classic Oban. So the fruit is very initial, kind of hits the front of your tongue, those kind of really sharp sour notes. And then as it develops towards the back, now you get the salt. There's almost like a very light Caol Ila Talisker element to it, that saltiness, that slight smokiness, very, very slight. But it's very oily, even though it's chill filtered. It has a wonderful texture to it. And then the mid palate is full of that kind of slightly saline-y, salty, kind of black olive, tapenade kind of flavour. It's very well made. I do have a small gripe with it, and I don't like the design. There's nothing wrong with something being old school. Classical's fine, but I just think it's really busy, and I think it could be cleaned up a bit. Like the label could be moved up, and the Distillers Edition could be moved, and the scroll, like this text on the side of it. This is like kind of an inkling to its history and what it does. That would be really nice on like the back of the bottle. I think they've just made the front of the logo, the front of the label just a bit too busy, and I think it distracts from the simplicity of what design can really be. But Dalwhinnie suffers from similar things, as well as a few other brands. But yeah, very busy label. That's the only sort of downside I have with it. I love that kind of royal blue colour it has, but yeah, just not a fan of the label, which is a bit of a shame. But that's not going to affect the score. It's a really well-made whiskey. Every time I try it, it really surprises me. It's at the top end of £70. It's like 79, 80 pounds a bottle. Whether or not it's worth that, I don't think so. Maybe like high 60s, maybe a little bit below. But it's going to get a solid 7.5. I think it's a very respectable score. It's a very respectable whiskey. Designed to one side, it is extremely surprising and very different. So if you're a fan of coastal Scottish whiskies, but want something a bit lighter and a little bit fruitier, you should definitely hit this up. If you can find it, it's totally worth it. This is the 2017 bottling. I've not seen 18, 19 or 20 editions. I don't know if they've even been made. But yeah, a solid score, a delicious whiskey, something a little bit more unusual. And if you're a fan of Oban, you should certainly check it out. So this has been Whiskey Wednesday. I've been Phil, and thank you all for watching.